Well, hey, it's day 5 of our Walking Through James series, and today we're covering James chapter 3, verses 1 through 12. Now, we've all heard this saying, and I want you to help me out with it. It says this: sticks and stones may break my bones, but what? Words can never hurt me. Yet, everyone knows that words can hurt you just as badly as sticks and stones. In fact, if James has anything to say about it, sticks and stones have nothing on the tongue, which he says is set on fire by hell itself. Now, apparently, the churches to which James wrote were being rocked by fights and controversies, especially among people who were competing for leadership, in which they were using their tongues, in other words, their words, to cause enormous chaos in the church. So James launches this full frontal assault on the tongue, describing just how evil it can be. In fact, he seems rather amazed that so much trouble could be caused by such a small thing. Like a bit in a horse's mouth or a rudder on a ship, the tongue is a small thing that has great power. And he'd say in verse 5 that it's a small fire that sets ablaze a large forest. And in verse 6, he'd say it's a world of unrighteousness. And though humans have managed to tame every other kind of beast, James says in verse 8, no one can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. And not only that, but it's the fountain of exactly the kind of double-mindedness James talked about in chapter 1. One minute, the tongue can be singing praises to God. And the next minute, it can be forming words meant to destroy a brother or sister in Christ. See, you don't have to live very long in the world, or in the church for that matter, to know that the tongue has fearsome power to destroy relationships. The world is littered with remains of marriages and friendships and parent-child relationships that have been pulverized to dust by the tongue. Not only that, but the damage the tongue does can be incredibly subtle. Think of it like terrorists laying booby traps. Satan can use what you say to lay webs of offense and accusation that, when they explode, can destroy entire families, groups of friends, or even churches. So when you speak bad of others, when you gossip, backbite, or tear down, what you're really doing is helping Satan lay bombs and tripwires that many times remain unseen until they explode. And when it does, it blows up all at once in an explosion of, well, you said, and he said, and she said. And if that's true, then so is what James says in verse 10, that among Christians, these things should not be this way. Keep a guard on your tongue today. Consider where you might be laying unseen tripwires that Satan could use to destroy relationships, friendships, your marriage, or even your church. So my encouragement to you today is to be a person who's not laying bombs, but rather who is working to disarm them.